All right, welcome everyone to using iRealPro to improve your practice. This is a workshop being put on by the Jazz Society of Santa Cruz County, and thank you so much for supporting us. Your support is really important to us. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see. Well, first thing I'll talk about is a sort of roadmap of what we're going to do, and then we'll get started. We are going to take a quick tour first, and then we're going to do a live demo. So what I'm going to ask you is, if you have questions, go ahead and dump them in chat so that you don't forget them. But if they're immediate questions like, what did you mean by, that wasn't clear, then Kathy or Scott will let me know. If they are questions that can wait till the end about usage and that sort of thing, they'll just let them go. And at the end, we're going to do questions, and we're going to go look at, I don't know what you guys are all going to want to learn about this. So we're going to go look at things that you're interested in if we have time at the end. And if I didn't cover things, a lot of things you might ask, I am going to cover. So to get the most out of this workshop, I hope that you've all done this, but while I'm talking, you can. If you haven't, you go into your device and there is a world icon, and it looks like this. And you press that and it brings you to the forums, and you click on this main playlist and download the jazz playlist. It doesn't matter if you're not a jazz person, you can take it off afterwards. This is just so that we have one thing in common, because everything you have on here is going to be specific to your needs. So we'll have one thing in common that we'll be able to look at together. So go ahead and do that if you haven't done that. All right, so go ahead and type in the chat the musical genre or genres that you play, the instrument that you play, and whether you have used iRealPro for practice or not, so that we know how many newbies we have here. And once everybody has put that in, maybe Kathy or Scott can give me a summary. So here's our agenda. First of all, we're going to do a tour. And the tour is going to be me showing you static slides. And the reason I did this was to make sure that I go through all of the stuff that we would definitely want you to know before we start actually doing stuff. So basically, the tools and the tunes, those are the two major components of this app. After that, I'm going to turn off these slides, and I'm going to share my screen, share iRealPro on the screen, and I'll do a live demo. And the live demo will have practice techniques, customizing the environment, editing tunes, customizing charts, and creating tunes, making charts for practice. I'm not going to go deeply into that unless we have extra time and people are really interested in doing full tunes. What I am going to do is show you, if you have a certain practice routine that you like to do, you can make charts for that. And it's really fun. And then we'll have question and discussion time at the end. So you want to give me a summary, Scott, before we move on?
Yeah, it looks like obviously a lot of people play jazz. Joanna plays folk and classical as well. Some vocals. Kathy's also a vocalist. Swing violin newbie. Can't improvise yet. Well, we'll get you close to that. We'll get you on board here. Some sax players, of course. Some people have used iRealPro. I have not, actually, so I'm looking forward to this.
All right, Scott, you need iRealPro.
I do. Well, I have it on my iPad now. It's sitting here in front of me, waiting for me.
All right, awesome. All right, so let's
some trumpet players, saxophone players. I'm a trombone player myself, so
yeah.
Some vocalists.
Those of you with transposing instruments, I am going to say something specifically for you, so hold on for that.
What about are you going to talk about lyrics? Does iRealPro do lyrics as well?
It does not, as far as I know, do lyrics, and no, I'm not planning to talk on that.
Okay, well, then vocalists
Yeah,
Think
but
about scatting,
vocalists
I
can
guess.
use it. I use it for vocals all the time. All
Okay,
right.
good.
So let's look at the versions just to see what you can do. So first of all, you can use it on any Android device, and that's what I use. So the screenshots are all going to be from Android, which means they're going to be a little different than the iOS, but really not substantively different, just slightly. And then there's a Mac version, which is what I'm going to use when I share my screen. And then there's an Android, there's a way on a PC that you can run the Android version. So the way it works is if you pay for the Android version and you also have, say you have an Android tablet and an iPhone for some reason, you'd have to pay for those two versions. But you don't have to pay for the Mac version if you're paid for any other version. And the Android version runs on a PC, and you can look up information about that if you have a PC and you have the Android version. So it's a little bit not, I guess what I would say is that this app is quirky. It's not hard to use, but it's quirky and you have to learn the quirks. So we're going to look at screenshots first, because once I get to the version on my computer, it will be significantly different. It's got everything all in one screen rather than having to open up little submenus and stuff. So it makes quite a bit of difference. All right, so the main screen, the user interface is not always obvious, but it is very easy to use. So if you look at this screen, you're going to see across the top, you've got these guys. I'm going to explain all of the specific things. Then you've got songs. That's every single song that you have a chart for. It's basically, it should say charts because it's not necessarily songs. Styles are the style playback styles, and we'll listen to that a bit. Last viewed, last imported, last edited, and trash. Frankly, I should learn how to empty my trash, obviously. So the playlists are either ones you've downloaded. So I downloaded the Jazz 1410, and I downloaded the exercises because there's all sorts of excellent exercises in there, like, jazz, minor, blues, that sort of thing. And I also downloaded some pop songs just for kicks. But these two are my own playlists that I created. So I'm also going to show you how to create playlists. So up at the top, let's look at these things right across the top. First of all, we've got the forums, and I assume you've all found that because you've all downloaded Jazz 1410. So you click on that, and if you're on a computer, it's going to take you to your browser. If you're on a phone, it sort of stays within the app. But then there's the whole forum, which we're not going to get into today, but you should go and look at the forum and do a little investigation, because there's all sorts of cool stuff on the forum. Stuff you can download, people you can talk to, all that. Settings is up here. When you're on the main screen, this plus is create a playlist. When you're in a tune, the plus is create a tune, just to make things a little confusing. And this is just the sorting. You can either sort alphabetically or manually. So we'll get to downloading tunes and making playlists after we tour the tools. So let's go for a little bit more of a tour of the tools. So if you are, let's go back and look again, the settings. So if you click on the settings on your device, you're going to see something sort of like this. The X in all of these submenus gets you out of them. That's on Android. Can somebody confirm that that's the same thing on iPhone? I'm not sure.
It is. There's a
Okay.
There's an X in the window that comes up for settings, and that just closes the window.
Okay. The rest of the general settings are not terribly helpful. I mean, are you really going to tune to something besides 440? It's up to you. Anyway, so that's settings. Most of the actual important settings are not under settings. So there you go. Click X, get out of settings. So if you click on songs, you're going to get into a full list of all the songs available. So you can see the arrow is pointing toward the search. Then I have to open my annotation again, and it's going to cover that up. Okay. So open up the search. And if you open up the search, you'll be able to type in the word satin, and you'll see the song Satin Doll. And please click on that so that you can see that. And the reason we're doing this is the one I'm going to use to do some editing stuff with later. So you can just stick on here for all of the demo stuff. So we have actually two sets of different types of tools on when you're looking at a tune. So let's look at what they do. Up at the top, we have this A, or it might say AA, depending on what your version is. If you click on that, you're going to see some options. And one of them that if you play a transposing instrument, you should do right now is you should click on transposing instrument and choose your instrument. And that is actually going to make a global change. All right. So that's going to make a global change on iRealPro from now on for all of your tunes. So you don't have to put the tunes in a different key. As soon as you do that, it will put all the standard keys in the correct transposition for your instrument. If you play a C instrument and a B flat instrument, you will have to do this every time you change instruments, but most of us don't. So if you do, well, you're just making your life hard for yourself, Scott. All right. You can also change it so that it uses M rather than dash. I know that certain people really hate the whole like E-7 for E minor 7 thing. I don't really care personally, but okay. So I don't have it changed on my phone, but I changed it on my computer, so you'll see that. When you go back into out of that, so we were in that A thing, and we're going to talk about the other things up at the top later, but when you go back out of that A thing and you're back in the tune, let's look at the controls at the bottom next. Okay. The top level is pretty self-explanatory. If you click on the 100 BPM, you will see that you can change the speed. This, for practice, of course, is extremely important because especially fast songs, you might want to slow down. And sometimes if you're an instrumentalist and you don't play with a vocalist, you might get really bored playing Satin Doll at 100 beats per minute, and you might want to speed it up. So, but don't make it too fast for vocalists. A band that I sang with did that one time in concert, and I was like, slow down, slow down. I can't fit all those words in. It's not fair. Okay. The next thing is the number of repeats. Again, in practice, you are probably going to want to turn this up, if not way, way up. Whereas if you are rehearsing for a gig and you always do a song, say 4 times because you have 2 soloists and a vocalist and whatever, you would change it to 4. So like when I rehearse for a specific gig, I'll change it to the exact number of times that we might do it in performance. But for practice, I often just go immediately up to 6 or higher, if it's a tune I'm learning especially. And then there's the key. Vocalists are more likely to want to change this. If you click on the key, you'll notice that it's got a box around the standard key. So the key that iRealPro considers to be standard, which is not always the key that you consider to be standard, will have a box around it. All right. Any questions about those 3 controls? Then you have the style. You get a bunch of styles. You really don't need more styles, but you can actually buy styles. During the pandemic, I got really bored. And so I bought the blues set just to see what it was like. So you can buy some other styles. There's very little in this app that you have to pay more for. So the one time you buy it, you've got almost everything, but you can change. So if you click on that, say you like to do Satin Doll double time, there's a double time swing in there. If you like to do it as a bossa, you could change it to bossa. All right. And then obviously your stop and your play buttons, as they always are. So those are what I consider to be the obvious tools. You just click on them and they're probably going to work for you. Probably going to work the way that you would expect them to work too. However, there are some other tools. So first, click on this thing that I think is supposed to look like a graduation cap. And that is the practice tools. And you're going to see some things that are very cool. First one is practice tempo. If you slide that slider up, you will notice that you can make it increase every time it goes through the tune. So if you only go increase by 1 beat per minute, it's going to take a lot of time for you to get to the point where it's faster. But if you have, say you have something that you want to get faster and you're having a lot of trouble fingering it or something, setting this to play it faster each time can be a nice little technique there. And then one of my favorites for practicing scales and stuff, practice transposition. You're probably not going to do this with tunes. You might. But if you go look into that, you'll see that you can transpose every time it goes through the tune. It's going to transpose up the amount that you set. So if there are certain keys that you want to work on, you could set it to go, between those keys, sort of. It's going to cycle through. So, if you set it at 2 half steps and it's in C, it's going to go to D, and then it's going to go to F. No, it's going to go to D, then it's going to go to E, then it's going to go to F sharp, then it's going to go to G sharp, then it's going to go to B. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to do with a tune, but it's a useful thing to do with an exercise. So I'm going to show you how to do it with an exercise because I think it's really useful. And notice that
Suki,
these have to, yeah.
Joanna asks, does the practice transposition show up in exercises versus songs?
It shows up in everything.
Everything. Okay.
So in iReal, song, chart, exercise, they're all charts. So they have a playlist called exercises, but they're all the same chart. So nothing behaves differently as far as I know. So yeah, but I use the transposition tool mostly when I'm using my exercise charts because of the nature of them, which I will show you. And you singers will, I think, really enjoy certain aspects of it. And instrumentalists will enjoy different aspects of it. And then we have these settings, and these settings, the sound settings, persist on the specific tune. So this is one of the weird quirks of iRealPro. Some of the settings, like the transposing instrument, you do it when you're in a specific tune, but it makes a global change. So a global change is a change that changes the behavior in the software everywhere, whereas these are local changes. So if I change, say I don't like Satin Doll with piano, I like it with organ, I can change that. I can change the bass, I can change the drums, and it's always going to persist with Satin Doll only. Okay. It's sort of nice that it persists with the tune that, because for example, if you have I don't know, I play guitar, and when you're playing guitar, you don't necessarily want a piano sound in there. So you might want to change it to a different instrument. The reverb persists. It is a global setting. So there you go. On the same screen, you have a global and you have a local. I think the reverb is always global. Embellished chords. I mean, I have it on, but really, to tell you the truth, I don't even notice that much difference. They just add little doobles in there a bit, you know. I don't really think of this tool as musical, like something I would actually use for you know, getting the best musicality, but there is a little bit of control if you're trying to make it sound better for musical. And I should have highlighted that this is the mixer tool, which is there. All right. We are not going to explore chord diagrams because I don't know about you, but I just find it really obnoxious to have a diagram popping up as it's moving through a song. But please do play with it if you think that that would be helpful to you. I never figured out a way to make it useful. There is a place where you can go look up, for example, guitar chords in here, but they're not very helpful because it doesn't have any of the voicings that you might want usually. So you know, I just personally, for guitar, I use an app that has a much more comprehensive chord chart system. And for piano, you'd have to be a really novice piano player to want the chord charts it has, but it's there in case you want to play with it.
Suki, before we get off of this particular part of going back to the transposition tool, there was a question about whether you could set a song to modulate within the song. So like, let's say you wanted to do the first half of Satin Doll in one key, and then you wanted to go up a half step for the second. It's just like your arrangement or something.
Okay.
Could you
That would be for arranging, and we will talk about making changes to specific tunes later. So okay. Yes, you can do that, but not using that tool.
Gotcha.
That tool is a dumb tool. It just does the one dumb thing. So, all right. The count in, you can set the duration. So if you don't ever want the click when it begins, it will do no measures. If the standard, the auto is usually one measure. That is set by whoever made the chart, but it's usually one measure. So it goes boom, 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 you know. And this is a little fun thing that I actually do because I prefer to have a different set of sounds. These are screenshots from my phone, which I don't actually use for practice. I use a bigger tablet. So I don't remember what I set it at, but it's sort of fun. You know, you can set that. And you can set the count in volume, which I really like because I think it's way too loud, way too loud. So I changed that. And that was, we got to this stuff by scrolling up. So if you are scrolling down, however you call it, did everybody find it? Anybody have any trouble finding it?
And what's auto? Did you say what that was?
Oh, auto is whenever somebody makes a chart, if they want to set it to have longer, I have never run across I've never run across a chart that has anything other than 1 as the default. So it's all I can tell you. Okay. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like, I'm not sure that option is one that is really important. I just leave it on auto unless on a specific tune I need extra time for something. And usually that would be during the pandemic. I did some recording with this and I needed 2 measures because I had to hit record and then I had to get my guitar ready. So I used 2 measures. That's the only time I did it. But some of you might want more, especially maybe a percussion player might want more. All right. So the editing tools we're going to go over in the live demo, but this is where you get into the editing tools. Okay. Notice that it's going to have edit and then duplicate and then new song. We're going to talk about all of those. This is also where you would remove it from a playlist if it's in a playlist that you created. So this is more of a hang on to that thought. We're getting to it. Slide. The settings menu within a tune. Now remember how useless the settings menu was in the main screen. It's very useful here. If I've never changed the font or anything, but apparently you can change the font and the colors. Go into night mode if you like that. You can change the minor symbol. You can, I believe it shows the playback position, which you definitely want. I'm not sure why you wouldn't want that. And then the transposing instrument there. And finally, the share menu it allows you to do a few things. One is, this is sharing with others or across your separate devices, and I'll talk about that later. You can actually record these things and create an MP3. This is probably the most useful. You can add it to a playlist. So you create your own playlists. They are very useful. It's very easy to play them, to use them. All you do right now, if you want to just create a playlist, is click add to playlist, name your playlist, and Satin Doll will be in there. It's very, very easy and extremely important because it saves you so much time. I'm on the device where I actually use for my practice. I have tons of playlists. Okay. So this is the last little bit of the before the live demo, which is how to find tunes, how to download them, and how to transfer them. And this is another one of these quirky places. All right. So, oh, I went the wrong direction. I am so sorry. You're going to click the world. The world is where we go. And the forums look sort of like this. They may look different on your device. If you're on a computer version, it actually goes to the forums on your browser. And there's all of these different forums that you can take part in. So the main playlists are just playlists that the iRealPro people put together for convenience. That doesn't mean that there aren't more. So remember, it was Jazz 1410, but there are actually 3,714 songs in their full jazz list at this point. They have a Brazilian Latin one, pop, rock, blues, bluegrass, country, holiday, etc. And then there's this thing. Oh, first I wanted to say, people, I'm not sure why this is, but most people I work with, when I teach teenagers, I'm shocked. People don't understand how powerful searching is. You do not have to go to the playlist and scroll through 3,000 songs to get to the letter M. Just click search, the search, which is right here, and type in some keywords from the song title. Don't ever just scroll and look for things. It's such a waste of time. Learn how to use search and find search everywhere because it's so helpful. And the search on this is perfectly fine. The sandbox is this workaround that they have. So for example, if you have an exercise app that you use on a phone and on a tablet, and you log in to both the phone and the tablet with the same login, what's it going to do? It's going to share your information across those two devices, and you'll be able to, log a run on your phone. And then when you go on your tablet, it'll be there, right? That's what we assume. That is not true of iRealPro. So if you have more than one device, you're going to use the sandbox. And I'm not going to go into it right now because it's a little weird. Once you've done it once, the first time you do it, you have to read the fine print. This little box will come up and explain what it's going to do. And it's a little weird, but it actually works. So in the sandbox, you will basically be able to share with yourself or with other people. So if you wanted to share some songs and with someone else, you could post them in the sandbox and send somebody a link. Or if you want to have the songs on this, I create it up here on my computer and then I want it on my tablet that I use for practice. So you use it to transfer. And we can talk about that more if you're interested at the end. Just know that it's there. So the interface is a little wonky. And I already told you, your devices do not automatically sync. Another thing that's a little quirky is if you add a song that you already have, it will not overwrite the old version. It will create a new version with a 1 at the end of the name, which is why my my one that I use a lot for doing my iRealPro stuff has tons of duplicate songs that I really should get rid of, but oh well. And it does work. So we'll go over it if you guys are interested. All right. So are there any
by the way,
questions
Suki,
before we go on?
Yeah, let me point out that when I was following you on my iPad, I had already, when I hit the world icon, I was already someplace else in the iRealPro system. And to get to the page that you now have up here, you hit the home icon, the little house icon.
Huh.
Because when I hit the world, I was immediately in the Jazz 1410 forum.
Oh, I wonder if that's probably because you were there before and you haven't.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay.
in case anybody was wondering, if they happen to go exploring a little bit, as I did. And
there you go. The home button is how you get back. Thank you, because I generally use the forums on my computer. And so that's not something I would have noticed. But yeah, you would use
so
this
I hit
home
the world thing, and it went back to where I was, the Jazz 1410 forum. And then I had to hit the home button to get to this screen that you're showing now.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And Suki, they do take feature requests, and Suki, their documentation is really good.
One other thing you should mention, on this page, the search button next to login. Yeah. It's very useful if you don't find a tune that you're looking for in the Jazz 1410 or the other areas, because if you request that tune, somebody else might have loaded it somewhere else on this, in this area, and you can find it. You don't have to put it in yourself.
Yeah. So definitely do Jazz 1410 is what they consider to be the core jazz repertoire, but you might want something that isn't in the core. So yeah, definitely do search. And I'll just reiterate that my little thing about the power of search, you will save yourself so much time if you first go to search automatically, rather than poking around for things, which is, I think most of us, it's sort of our, especially those of us who are tactile sort of people, we're musicians, right? We're just going to poke around until something sounds good, right? But the search button will really help. All right. Can you now all see my iRealPro? Yeah?
I can.
Okay. Yes. Excellent. Just wanted to make sure. And can you all hear when I start this playing?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Excellent. All right. It's a little hairy to get iRealPro to work with Zoom. So thank you, Kathy, for troubleshooting with me. All right. So you will see that this is significantly different because since it's a computer screen, it is all laid out in one place, which is really nice. So if you want to do any of the sort of hairier editing and writing stuff, you might want to consider getting the computer version of it because it's all right here. But it's easier for me to show you on this how to do things, but it'll be slightly different because you're going to have to go between those different screens. But let's just go right from the beginning. So first, I am going to say I want to do Satin Doll, and there is Satin Doll. Lovely. Okay, so it has the standard 3 repeats. I want it to do 6, except notice that it's flashing. The play button is now flashing. You cannot change number of repeats in the middle. It will just do it the next time you start. So if you start it and say, oh, darn, I meant to do it 6 times, you really do have to stop it and bring it up to 6 and then start it again. Okay. And the other quirky thing about repeats is if, for example, you want to play the last four, that's a pretty typical way to start something, right? So you're going to click on a device. You're going to sort of, you're not just going to touch, you might have to touch and hold a little bit. All right. So let me, yeah. So on my Android device, I have to touch and hold till a blue play button comes up. On the computer, I just have to click. So everybody try that if you haven't ever used it, to make sure you know how to do that, because doing last four is so helpful. But now notice what's going to happen. I'm going to start playing last four. And so it's 6 repeats, right? Except when it actually starts the tune, it's going to be 5 repeats. So it's on the second. Notice that it says 2 out of 6 up here at the upper right. So you do have to put in, if you're going to start in the last 4, you do have to put in an extra repeat. So you can do this thing that starts from the last 4, and that is really very acceptable and useful. I'm going to show you how to put in an introduction later, but just so you know, you can do that. The other thing...
By the way, Cynthia is asking about doing the same thing as a tag.
Yes, and I will talk about that.
Great.
Okay. So if you are looking at a tune that has a coda at the end in iRealPro land, that's a coda. You don't want to click on the coda for your last 4 because it'll just go to the end. You want to click on the last 4 of the main part of the tune. Notice, this is not a good example. Let me go back and show you another one that doesn't have anything fancy. Okay, A Certain Smile doesn't have anything fancy. Notice the beginning and end. You have a double bar at the beginning. You have a double bar at the end. You do not have repeats. Repeats are something different in iRealPro than they are in music, when setting music. So especially if you come from the classical world, you have to forget this idea that you want to repeat there. In a normal iRealPro tune, you're going to have a double bar at the beginning, a double bar at the end, and then you have number of repeats up here, right? So the repeat thing, the repeat symbol, let's go back to Satin Doll. And the iRealPro stuff is hiding my navigation tools, but you can go back to the last tune you were on. Can I see that? Anyway, okay. So here we're at Satin Doll. You have at the beginning a repeat because it's actually a first ending repeat. That repeat does not go with this final ending thing. You would not put a repeat here. If you do, iRealPro will act very weirdly. So just so you know. Okay, so last 4, if you ever want to play last 4, you click on the beginning of the 4th measure from the actual end of the song, not the coda, and then you press start. And it will need 1 extra if you are trying to have a specific number of times that you're going to go through. You'll have to add 1. And you will see this, you see 2 out of 6 here up at the top. On your device, you'll also see something like that. And it turns a different color when you're on the last time through, which is nice. So, it says final here. So, so you can really see that you're done and it's the last time through.
Interestingly, you only have to select the bar 4 from the end to play the last 4 bars.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm gonna explain why that is in a minute.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, I'm gonna explain why that is right now. That is my next subject. My next subject is looping. Okay. So I personally hate this measure of Satin Doll. Maybe this is why I chose Satin Doll to talk about, but I hate this measure of Satin Doll. So say I want to really slam that measure. So I am going to choose the measure before, and then here's the weird thing that I can't help you with. You have to learn how to do it yourself. When you choose that measure, you're going to hold down, and then you're going to hold down at the end. So I am now going to move my mouse and hold down here. Oh, see, it doesn't always work. Okay, there we go. I have to sweep on the computer. You don't sweep on a device necessarily. Somebody with an iPhone, if I'm saying something incorrect, please tell me. But on a device, you hold down, then you go to the end and you hold down again, and you should get that blue line with the little slashy things in it that shows that it's a repeat. Now, when you play, you know, and I'm going to be sitting there doing these two measures over and over again, right? And actually, this is a pretty useful practice because you're going down a half step, and that can actually be a useful practice technique. But I will tell you that only doing this with two measures can just drive you insane. And it could drive you insane anyway, so do this very carefully. More likely, you're going to want to do an 8-measure repeat. So you click at the beginning, you hold down at the end till you get that jagged blue line, which I wish they had the same user interface here so you could see it. And then you click on that jagged blue line, and it'll just start looping through. So this is a really powerful tool for learning a hard part of a song. And so you're going to see that it's just going to go, well, it would have looped back anyway. But anyway, it's going to just keep looping. And you can see here in my upper right, it shows an infinity symbol. That means it's repeating over and over. When you're looping, it never stops till you stop it. Usually what happens is you go, stop, I'm going crazy. And then you stop it because it's crazy. It can just make you crazy. But it's really useful, especially when you're learning a new tune. So has everybody figured out how to do that? Because sometimes getting that second selection to actually work can be a little complicated.
Cynthia has a question. Cynthia, do you want to ask you're on mute?
I figured it. Oh, okay. I did figure it out because I figured out that on the iPhone you have to keep your press your finger on it and keep it pressed for a while. But yes. How do you take the looping off? Now I can't take the looping off. I just want
to click press anywhere else in the tune.
So, and if I want to keep that last 4 bars for, practice as an intro, will it?
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Right now we're just doing playback stuff. Okay. We will do editing stuff in a second. Okay. I think that Satin Doll really needs to be groovier. So this is much groovier. So as I said, once I've done this should persist. So if I go somewhere else, and then I go back to Satin Doll, it has persisted. So it's still Rhodes. So that's nice. I like it groovy. I'm going to keep it at Rhodes. And then on, that practice transposition that I showed you, the practice tempo, both of those you could do here. And I'm going to start from the end so that we can see it change. So right now it's at 120. By 2 BPM, and see now it says 122, and notice 2 BPM you can't even hear it, so generally you'd want to increase it by more. And then the practice transposition, again I'm going to start at the end, and we are in C. Now we're in D. So if you want to learn how to play a tune in every possible key, or, you know, more likely, if you want to practice a bunch of keys, one of the things that's really useful is to take a short, like a blues song, and just loop it, bringing it up, you know, a half every time, and then you'll end up going through all the keys, and it can be really useful, but you probably wouldn't want to do it on something this long. And let me see if there's anything else I wanted to do. Oh, so yeah, and I was gonna, oh, it's not, because yeah, songs. Okay, so here is a practice tune that I made. And so this is where the transposition can get really, so up a half step. If I do this up a half step each time, I'm in C. So you're going to have to, you know, really, this is a little too short, but I mean, it certainly would keep you on your toes to do this. So that was all the playback stuff that I wanted to talk about. As far as playback goes, not doing any editing or anything, are there other playback questions that anybody had?
So, Suki?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So usually on that thing, when you do the transpose thing, the normal thing I've always done is go around the circle of fourths.
Yeah.
Or fifths, so you don't go up half steps and such like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would
Ray Brown version. You go around the circle of fourths.
Yeah, so you'd go
from C to F to
yeah, so you go 5 half steps. Yeah. No, it's really up to your preference. You can do it however you want, and sometimes it might make sense to go up, say, a whole step or something because of what you're doing. I don't know. It's whatever works for you.
Yeah, it's 5 half steps for circle of fourths or 7 half steps for circle of fifths.
Yeah. So that would make more sense. As far as it would make more sense to your ear to go that way, and then you would end up going through all the keys. So I do that as well.
If you're doing like Fever.
Yeah. But you could also say you have a tune that you're playing with a band, and the singer says, the last time through, I want to go up a whole step, and make it sound real cheerful. And you don't like that transition. You can do this, and then you can have that transition, right? And you can practice that transition. So, you know, there's probably a million reasons why you might want to do this. Okay. So that was what I had for practicing with the tools that exist. The next thing, the more powerful thing you can do is you can actually edit stuff. So I'm going to go back to Satin Doll because I really, really like this Hal Leonard version of Satin Doll that has a 4-bar intro in it. And this does not have that 4-bar intro in it. And so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to create the version with the intro. And just watch what I do. And if you have questions afterwards, let me know. But it's, like I said, a little quirky. So you've got this pencil tool up here. If you click on the pencil tool, you cannot hurt, by the way, the standard tunes. The standard tunes are set so that they can't actually, it says edit song, but if you try to edit it, it's actually going to rename it. So don't worry about causing any trouble with the standard tunes, okay? You're fine. So I want to edit song or duplicate song. With a standard tune, it doesn't matter, but I always do duplicate just because that way I know I'm duplicating it. So I'm going into editing mode. Now it's called it Satin Doll 1. If I want to change the name, On my computer, I actually can't show you exactly how that works because it's a little different. On your device, you're going to have to click the I button. There's on Android, it's a blue I at the top to the left of the save button. And there I can change the name. In this, I'm just going to type in Hal Leonard intro. All right. And I'm going to call it that. That way I remember later. My personal, so I keep a playlist of how I arrange songs personally when I do them. And I always put in the title of it Suki W. So I know for me that it's my version. You can set up however you want to do it. If you don't mind it just always being called one, you don't have to rename it. It'll just add a one. Okay. So here's where things get a little weird. There are these two things here. I call them the pusher button and the eater button because they should be advance forward and advance back, but they behave a little oddly. So the pusher button is this plus with a right angled bracket, and I'm going to push. Okay. And you see what's happening. It's pushing all the stuff forward. This editor does not behave at all if you've ever used any music layout software. It does not behave at all like normal music layout software. So I just clicked 16 times. Yeah, 16 times to get 4 measures. The weird thing is, and this is getting into the nitty-gritty of this actual size of the measures doesn't matter. If it says 4/4, it's going to play 4 beats per measure, no matter whether the measure is this standard size or if it's like, half the page. It's very odd that way. All right, so I'm going to put in a double bar on your device. You're going to see there's going to be a thing that pops up on top of the tune that's going to have all of the keys and it's going to have the numbers. And then along the bottom, you're going to see the right to the left of the next button, you're going to see these two things that create bar lines. And for me, they're always right here. And if you just keep clicking them, they change on yours. On mine, I get the different kinds of bar lines separately, but on yours, you just keep clicking it and it changes from single to double to repeat. So do that so you can see how it works. Single, double, and repeat. Remember, you do not want to put repeats in iRealPro in places that you actually don't want repeats, okay? So we are going to put a double bar line. And the next thing we're going to do, so we don't forget, is we want this to be an intro. And again, you're going to have a button down at the bottom that says probably A. If you click on it, it's going to have this whole list here, A, B, C, D, in, V. So if it's a vocal verse, you would use V. If it's an intro, use in. I don't know why. I mean, vocal verse and intro both behave the same way, which is you put that in there and it won't ever repeat this. All right. So then you have a couple of different ways of putting in chords. I personally find on my phone that typing in the chord is the fastest way to do it, which is sort of weird. You would think those chord builder things would be useful, but for me, they're not. On the computer, it's different. And so, the chord builder thing, I don't even know where it is. But so basically on your phone, you could click the 3 dots and there's the chord builder stuff that comes up to the right of the chord thing. But instead, I'm just going to type in the chord thing and I'm going to type, I want a D minor 7. And there it is. All right. Now, again, things are a little wonky. You can use these advanced buttons to, you don't want to use the pusher button because that'll add more space, and you've already added in the space you want. But you can use, it's not here. On the phone, there's an advanced button that you can use to go to the next place. I always just click with my finger. It's so much easier. And then my next one is E flat minor 7. And notice that the B is a flat, which is nice. And then I'm going to put in a single bar line. I'm going to put E minor 7. And I'm going to click to the next spot. And I'm going to, most of the reason you leave space here is just for readability. Like I said, it doesn't matter how you space these chords. It's going to see them the same way.
Suki?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have 4 bars per measure, and each of these chords is 4 beats per measure, sorry. And each of these chords is 2 beats. So wouldn't that be why you put a space between them?
No, you would think so, wouldn't you?
You would.
So no, you can try it on your, just for fun. But you can put as many chords inside of a measure as you want. You can put as much space inside of a measure as you want, and it doesn't matter. It's a really quirky system. So here is the last measure, and it's interesting.
How does it know to play 2 beats per chord?
That's the question. I like that question, and you might have to talk to the people who wrote this to find out what their thinking was. All right. So you notice that they're all smashed on top of each other. It really doesn't matter. And then I'm going to put a bar line in. You must put the bar lines in. The bar lines are what determines. So I'm going to save this and play it, and then I'll explain. So save for me is down here. For you, it's probably in the upper right. You have to save, and then you don't have close, you have an arrow. You click the arrow and you're going to go back in order to play. Now, I can demonstrate in a second what happens if you put extra space in. If you don't put this last bar line in at the end of the line, bad things will happen. You have to have the bar lines in. That is what tells it how many beats and stuff. So let's hear this. So you might recognize that. That only played once. Next time it repeats, I'm going to start from here, and let's hope it does the right thing. It's nothing like a demo where it does the wrong thing. I always love it when you're doing a demo and it does the wrong thing. Ah, did the right thing. It went back to A because it knows to go back to A and not to in. So that's why you put that in there. If I had not put that in there, it would have gone back to the beginning. I'm going to go back into editing mode. And I'm going to get rid of space. So the delete tool, the thing I call the eater tool, it's just a bizarre tool. That's why I call it the eater tool, because it's not really delete. It's not really backspace. I'm going to eat something, and I'm going to add a space so it doesn't look too awful. And look, it ate my bar line. Don't let it eat bar lines, because if it eats the bar line, it's not going to play. And I'm going to see if this will play correctly with the incorrect spacing. My theory, and I haven't tried this in a long time, so it's possible that my theory is now wrong, but my theory is it will play correctly. So let's go. Ah, it's got an error. There you go. They fixed it. All right. So they do want the correct spacing. There you go. For the longest time, it really didn't matter.
Not only that, but when you put that bar line at the end of the intro, you did it from the icon that puts the bar line at the beginning rather than at the end. Did that make a difference?
It does not make a difference. That's another quirky thing. These two and these two don't. Well, actually, these two matter. The two single bar lines don't matter, left and right. If I'm here and I use a left, it's going to put it to the left. If I use a right, it's going to put it to the right. Really doesn't matter. So, but like say I put,
So why did it not work? What was the problem just now?
Oh, because there was an extra bar line. So let's try this. I mean, just for fun, because really we don't want to force it to make mistakes. But did you see what happened? Let's count that. I'm starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See? So the spacing doesn't matter. So what you saw was me putting in an error, and that was the problem. The spacing doesn't matter. It only cares about bar lines. So now I have to go find this bar line. And now finding the bar line might be really hard. There we go. Okay. I'm going to save that again so that it's not there. All right. So this is now my intro. And it will play anytime I just play the song, it will play the intro. If I don't want it to play the intro, I can just click, at the beginning of the song. But the cool thing is that I now have this intro, which is something that I always like to have at the beginning of this tune, and it's not in the standard chart. All
so
right.
Suki, there's a couple questions about the save function. One was someone saved it, and it saved just as Satin Doll rather than Satin Doll 1. And then I think there was another question about where's that save function again?
Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't have saved as Satin Doll. That's interesting. Uh-oh. On my devices, it always renames it with a 1. As you saw, I said to edit the thing and it came up with a 1. So I would say
it did on mine.
I'm the one who put that in. I just want to say it has never done that for me. I have always had to remember to rename them. So I just think it's something people might check on your device and with your version. I think I'm up to date, but it's possible you could change one of those tunes. If you did, you could still find it online, and
you can always get the old version back,
but that's a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So okay, well there you go. So don't when you go to edit it, please do use the duplicate. Now we know. My 18-year-old cat is walking on my keyboard. So.
And there's still a question about needing to see how you go about saving what you've edited again.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go in here again. The save button on the computer is down at the bottom. The save button in the editor on my phone is in the upper right, and you just click save and then click the back arrow on the left.
And on the iPhone, I will say that you have to click done. And done will give you either save or don't save.
Oh, well, on my iPad, there is a done in the upper right and a save in the upper left.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you have a newer version than I do. Oh, I see. Save. Oh my gosh. I never saw that before.
And I think if you hit done, but you don't save, you've lost whatever you've just done.
Correct.
And it reverts to what you had before.
Yep.
Yes. So yeah, you can revert by not saving. But yeah, you should always save if you want to save it. Mine, the Android version does actually warn me if I'm trying to leave without saving. So like I said, the different versions shouldn't be different. That's one of the quirkiness factors of this. All right. I'm going to show you something that's already in this chart, which is this blue end. That blue end says the last time through, don't loop back around, just stop right here on a C. So if you don't put the end in, and it's going to go A minor, D minor, A minor, D flat 7, C, F, E minor 7, A 7, C is how the standard way it would end. If you don't want it to do that little loopy thing, you put the end there, and you do it by clicking on that chord to highlight it. And then on my phone, It's underneath the menu that has the coda icon on it. In the case of the computer, it's up here already displayed. So to put that end in there, if you wanted to end in a different place, you would do that. If you want it to do its little loopy thing that it does as standard, where it would get to the C, then it would go to the F, E minor 7, A7, then end on C. Don't put the end in. It just does that automatically on any tune. Now, the next question is, I don't want end there. I'm going to get rid of the end because I want a coda. All right. And a coda is what you might also call a tag. So say you have a tag at the end where instead of this turnaround you have here, you want a 2-measure end. And so what you do, and here's another weird thing, you go the beat before the chord that you want to do the coda on. This is different from if you're doing music arranging. You would not put the coda in the measure before, but you have to in order for good playback. Then you go down to the bottom where there's emptiness. You put in a double bar. You put in another coda symbol. And in this case, I am going to copy this stuff and paste it. I'm going to tell you, oh, yes, it does that thing. Copy paste in this program is really, truly annoying. And I apologize that I can't much help you with that. It does weird things, and you're just going to have to play with it in order to get it to work. And notice I just can't get it to do what I want, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm just going to put a C major 7 there. And
would it be easier just to type in the changes again instead of?
I'm sorry?
Would it be easier just to type in the changes again?
Yes, sometimes it does feel a lot easier just to type in the changes again. So yes, I mean, I usually, when I'm working on my phone, I just do, because on the computer, it's so much easier to copy and paste. The copy and paste functions on the phone are just, they're weird. They are not like anything I've ever seen before. So play around with it. If it really annoys you, it might be faster for you just to type in the changes. And then I am going to want to put the end here because I want it to go dun, 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 right? So that's my coda. And I'm going to save that and play it so you can hear. All right. The way that I have to play the coda is I have to go down, to 1 repeat, because otherwise it's not going to play the coda, right? So I'm going to pretend we're listening to the last time. I'm going to start here on the last line. And if I did everything correct, it's going to do the right thing. Let's see. There you go. So the last time through. So notice that it will not do that until, so now I just upped it to 2 repeats. So I'm on the first time through. And now it's going to go back to the beginning, not to the intro. And it's got the word final up there, so you know that it's working. And I'm going to let it run while I talk here. So codas are the most useful way of doing this. There are some other more advanced things you can do, like DCL, capo, and all that stuff. And I'm not going to talk about that today because it can get really hairy. I was talking to Brian Fitzgerald at Kooumba about this, and he's like, so what do you do when? I'm like, oh, Brian, we're not getting into that today. Because some of this stuff can be really complicated. So we're just going to assume that if you want to become a power user, you're going to start playing with those other things that they're called the text options, that there's certain key text that will do things in the playback. All right, it's going to work. There we go. All right. So that is an example of a way that you might edit a tune. And the last thing that I really want to show you before we open it up to anything else you guys want to do is creating a new tune. And in this case, I am just going to create a practice tune. Okay. And the reason I'm going to create a practice tune is because they are so darn useful. They are not, hang on, I need to get back on my phone so I can show you. All right, there we go. So they're not going to be beautiful. Practice charts are not meant to be beautiful music. They're meant to be useful. So I'm going to click on, and you can be anywhere in your app that's showing a tune. In order to do this, you click on the pencil, and instead of edit song or duplicate, you might just click new tune. Let me see. Yeah, so it's going to say new song probably on your menu. On my menu, it gives me all the options for a new song, and I'm going to say new song and then blank. Okay. First of all, it's going to come up with the title, new song, and unknown composer. On your device, you are going to click on the, so does everybody have the new tune up, a blank new tune? If you were doing a standard one, I highly recommend you use the standard format that they've already created for you. Then you don't have to put in all the bar lines and stuff. Okay. But in this case, we're going to do a blank one. And so you click on that I to give it a title and a composer. I will tell you, if you don't put a composer on and you try to share it on the forums to transfer to another device, they're going to get at you. They want a composer for everything. So even if you do what I'm about to do, you would have to put yourself first. You know, sometimes like you saw, I did one where I put PDQ Bach. I don't know. And then a style, I like this to be pop shuffle. And the reason is that I don't want it to be swing because of what I'm going to do. Where's pop shuffle? There it is. That's just a really standard beat. I want it to be in G major, not C major. So I'm going to choose G. And you're all doing this in the menu, the info menu.
The info menu?
Yeah, the I menu. So if you're in the editor and you've got this blank thing up, you'll see an I up at the top.
Right. The first thing is, though, that you had those templates of 16 bars or 32 bars or whatever. Mm-hmm. Are those standard?
Yes.
I don't see them in my menu. I only have new song. And I'm on an iPad.
Okay, but click new song. It's in two menus. So click new song.
Yep.
And then does it give you options?
Oh, template. 32 measures AABA, 32 measures ABAC. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so choose blank.
Yep.
Okay. So you are in here.
Yep.
And it gives you the stuff. You use the I menu to rename it and all that, and to put it into the key you want. I want it in G major because this is one of my vocal warm-ups. And the way my vocal warm-up goes is like this. It goes G, D7, bar, G, E flat 7, double bar. Oh, wait. Double bar at the end. Okay, that looks nicer. All right, and there's a reason for this. I will tell you the method to my madness. But before I leave here, I have set it to be pop shuffle. I already set it to G, but it did not do it. Set. All right, it's in G. I'm gonna call it vocal warm up. and I'm not going to transfer it anywhere, so I'm not going to worry about, naming it anything, and or having a composer for it or anything. And I am time signature you never have to do unless it's something other than 4/4. 4/4 is standard, so don't bother unless if you really want to make a nice chart, you'd want to put 4/4 there, but I'm not going to. And then I'm just looking to see if it allows me to choose the tempo in here. It does on my phone, I think, but it doesn't. So, okay. Oh, there I go. It's down here at the bottom. I actually want my vocal warm-up to be really slow. So I'm going to bring it way down. I think I do it at, what do I do it at? Go away. That's not right. All right, I think I do it at like 80. And I'm going to make the standard number of repeats. And this is where you start to drive yourself insane, but I love it. It's 30 repeats. All right. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to close it. And this is my beautiful vocal warm-up. Now, why do I just have 2 bars? I have 2 bars of very slow beats because I'm going to go up a half step at every repeat, because in vocal warm-ups, you want to start at the bottom and go up. And G is where I like to start. I don't like to start lower. I can go lower and I will go lower, but this is my basic vocal warm-up. So here we go. Pop shuffle. Oh, it didn't put my repeats on there. All right. So I guess this doesn't set. I mean, I have found a way to set the standard. But these things will persist in my own version of it. So here we go. I'm going to play, and anything else I want, I'll just leave it. Recognize that? So as you can hear, 80 is way too fast. If you're a singer, you're going, well, if you really want to stretch your voice, we're going to want to go down even further, right? And it's going to go through higher and higher. And at some point, my next thing is to switch down to la, and then I go down to my lower register again. So I have a whole thing that I do with this. And I so recommend this for any skill that you need to practice. So right now I'm taking Steve Wilson's improv class, and we were, for example, doing altered dominant chords. And so I asked him, okay, what's a good chord progression for me to work on this? And so, I can make an altered dominant chord progression. Where was that? I think I wrote down one. Oh, yeah. So he said A7, D minor 7, G7, C. I could make that and have it either just have it repeat over and over again, or if I wanted to, I could make a longer tune. For example, I have one for 2-5-1 that I go, in measures 2-5-1-1, 2-5-1-1, and I want to go through like the circle fifths or something. I'll make, say, 4 lines of that. And then when I practice, I'll always use the transposition. So if I were doing that, if I were an instrumentalist, I would not put, for example, this E flat 7. That's a transitional chord to go to the next chord, right? I wouldn't do that. I would instead go to something like this, 2-5-1 practice, where I would say, repeat that. I'm going to edit this, because I really feel like what I really want is I want this 4 times, and then I want it to And like I said, this gets really hairy on a phone, so you probably wouldn't want to do it this way on the phone. But that was the quickest way for me to do it. So I just did. Why is it working like that? All right, it might just be defeating me. I'm going to have to use the dreaded, oops. There we go. What did it do? So see, these tools are wonky. The pusher and the eater tool, they're wonky. I can't begin to describe to you why they work the way they do. You just have to get used to them. And then I don't know if these double bars are going to matter. So I am going to assume they don't matter. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to see what happens when I play it. All right. Because a lot of times these things don't matter. Now, see, it's not going to matter. That's ugly. It's not something I would give anyone else, but if it works, I'm just going to leave it. And then, so if I put that on transposition, say I want to go up 5 half steps. And
is that something in the edit menu? I forget. You told us, but
what's that?
The transposition.
This is in the playback. So I'm in playback now. You want to save it and get out of the edit menu. And if you're in playback, you find the transposition under the graduation cap.
Oh, that's right. Graduation cap.
Yeah. So if I am using this to practice with now, I'm going to start at the end so we can hear the transposition. So here we go. Okay, what happens? There we go. Now we're in F. And so I'm going to have 4 lines, 16 bars of working on my altered dominant scale in F. And then when it gets through this, it's going to go to the next. And then I'll work on it all over again. These things can be so useful, so much better than trying to play with a recording, because when you're playing with a recording, it goes on to stuff and you can't, pausing it, yeah, but then going back, where do you get back to the right place? This is so much more efficient. It really works. All right. So last thing I wanted to say, and this, once you've gone into the forums and you've searched and you haven't found the tune you want, and that has happened to me, amazingly, nobody besides me ever made an iRealPro chart for the song Being Green, the Kermit the Frog song. Da 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 da, being green. This is the color of the sea. Nobody ever made that, so I made it. So we're gonna go into the pencil tool. We're going to say this is going to be a 32 measure AABA song, and the reason that I would always use the form, even if, for example, that it's got more, I have to add measures down here, is because this is going to work. When you do it yourself, there might be, remember when I made that mistake and I had an extra bar line and it wouldn't play? It is devilishly difficult to find this stuff sometimes. So to make a new tune, if it's in a format or close to a format, I would always recommend using the thing. And say it's got in the B section, instead of being 8 measures is 12 measures, just add 4 more measures. Ooh, eater tool. There we go. No, so see, it's doing something weird. Go away. And then it is quirky. Quirky, quirky, quirky. All right. I'm getting in my bar lines, and then I'll figure out where it's got the extra space in here. And then it's put in an extra bar line in here. And then I'm going to try the eater tool. Oh, it worked. Okay. So now I've got a song that has a 12 bar B section, but it's going to be so much easier to use the form if you can. All right. And then in this case, I really like this really cool coda that I created. So I'm going to create a coda. You go to the coda here. So this is where the coda starts. So you put the coda symbol there. And then I'm going to put in my coda. It can help to count bars and put in the bars first, because otherwise it can get a little hard to remember where you are. So, oh, that should be this actually. All right, there you go.
Suki?
Yeah.
A couple things that are coming up in the chat. One is and I'm not going to take these in order, you guys, because this first one has to do with what she's doing right now. Is there a way to enter the number of measures that you want in a song? And then we want to talk about some of the exercises that are already in iRealPro.
Yeah.
And finally, if it's so quirky, why do you like it? So let's start with is there a way to enter the number of measures you want in a song?
Yes, by using one of the standard things. So one of the standard forms. So I'm not going to save this. So everybody take a look at my beautiful empty song. I'm going to say don't save. I'm going to go start a new song. You can do blank, and that will give you just a big blank page. You can do 32 measures AABA, 32 measures ABAC, 48 measures, and 96 measures. 48 measures at least just gives you all those measures. And then you can delete some if you have, deleting empty stuff is relatively easy. It's just the quirkiness of deleting when you've got actual content in there can be a little funny. But and on the computer it's much easier because you can just go like that, but it doesn't delete space. So it's unusual.
So if you wanted to do a 12 bar blues, you would probably pick the blank template and just put in your 12 bars. However, there are a whole bunch of 12 bar blues exercises on iRealPro. There are also 251 exercises and a bunch of other stuff like that. If you download, I think it's in the jazz book.
Yeah, I don't have them on this because let me look on my phone. So yeah, I have downloaded the exercises. I've got 50 of them. So there's Afro 1, Afro 2, Ballad 1, Ballad 2, Ballad 3. And so let's look at some blues. I do have, some that I made myself on this version. But
just to be clear with the folks on the thing, there are I have them on mine. There's a ton of exercises. And those are the two I remember off the top of my head, but I think there might be some dominant 7.
I can show you iRealPro.com. I will get to the forums and show you on my screen after I share it. So I am going to stop sharing iRealPro and I am going to share Google. All right, so this is the version of the forums in Chrome, and it looks almost exactly, except with a much bigger format. So as the same as on the phone. So there's the main playlists there: jazz, Brazilian, Latin, pop, rock, blues. All of that stuff is there. Main playlists. You've got all those. Do you remember offhand where the exercises are? I got them so long ago.
I mean, I downloaded the jazz one, and I can't remember the other one, but they were there. I didn't specifically download exercises; they were just included.
Yeah, I thought they were in the main playlist. Let's just look at jazz. You know, they seem to have moved them because they were so easy to find.
Can you search for exercise?
Yeah.
You could. And I was going to mention, and you might have said this before and I forget, I have had the experience of going into these forums and clicking and inputting the title of a song I'm looking for that's not in any of the things I already downloaded. And people have created chord charts. You got to try them out and make sure that you like them. But I've gotten a bunch of songs like that just by going into the forums.
They're number 3 on the jazz list when you download the forum.
Oh, okay.
Jazz practice exercises like 606, it says here.
Okay.
All right. You know, I wasn't logged in, so let me make sure now that I'm logged in that things haven't changed. So yeah, where did they move them?
Click on the jazz 1410 and it comes up when
just click on that jazz one right there.
Yeah. It'll come up as under the exercises, jazz practice exercises.
Jazz practice exercises. There it is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to click on that. And so here's where why is it not? All right. Oh, I see. So there's just a whole bunch of people's different exercises. Dominant 7 practice tracks. There used to be an official list of exercises somewhere. I'll look that up. I just assumed that they were still obviously.
Would it be in tutorials?
Yeah, maybe they're in tutorials. I'll find them and let you know, but somebody we can, because they were very clear before. Interesting that now, see, this is other people's practice lists. They have an official list of practice lists, but let's pretend that we have the practice list for now, rather than making it, drawing this out. I'm going to go back to iRealPro. I just searched for the word blues, and here we go, 12-bar blues. All I need to do to make a blues practice chart is duplicate this and give it a new name, right? Blues practice in G.
You just said that was the composer.
Oh, you are so right. All right. I'm going to, thank you. I would have noticed that eventually. All right. So yeah, so you can just make your own practice things. I would wish it were quicker to see where they had them.
Suki, it might be possible if people don't have it and you have it, or I know I've got some, although I've added things, but we can share those playlists pretty easily.
Yeah.
By email. So maybe if people would like it, can they contact you and maybe you could share your practice exercises list?
I mean, I have it. I'll just have to look and see where they put them, because they've got them somewhere and they should be under the main playlist, but they're not.
If you do download, if anybody does download that huge list of jazz tunes, they might be in there, because I just know that that's what I downloaded originally. And I've seen those exercises
a lot.
Yeah, but I downloaded it and they're not here. So
that's weird.
They're in the first downloads I did, the 1200. This is an update. So there's a lot in the 1200. I don't know what.
Oh, maybe that's it.
I downloaded the 1410, and when I search for exercise, I get a ton of them.
Okay, that's probably where they are.
Afro 1, Afro 2, Ballad 1,
Okay,
Ballad 2, Ballad 3.
That's where it is. But look, I've just searched for exercise and it's not here. How odd.
Oh, that's very odd.
So there's the answer to your question. Something weird happened on my computer.
This
but
attack on the NutriBullet
Jesus.
But the exercises should just download automatically with the Jazz 1410. So yeah, I don't know what happened to them here. I'll have to re-download. So remember when you add, if I go and download, and I'll just do this. If I go and download Jazz 1410 again, it's going to ask me, can you see that it's asking me, do I want to import a song or import the playlist?
Mm-hmm.
If I import the playlist, since I already have it, it's going to call it 1. And now I'm going to have more. I'm going to have doubles of all of these songs.
Right.
But that's okay, because maybe I'll have my exercises.
Now try that.
Yeah, they're still not there.
Still not.
Okay.
Still not there.
That's
yeah,
so
I can't.
weird.
I can't explain.
So,
all right.
Joanne's other question was, why would you recommend it? But I have a thought about that.
Okay. Well, yeah, and add on to what I have to say about it. The sort of the basic, let me stop share here. The way that this thing works, the basic fundamental bones of it are so simple. The stuff that I showed you that's quirky, once you get used to the basic quirks, you never notice them again. And then once you get into really editing tunes, so that's a really good question. But David Schnittman actually put something on the Facebook group that answers that question directly. He said one time he was doing a gig with Scotty, and Scotty shared his iRealPro charts with him, and David had all of Scotty's stuff all in an app he already uses, that he knows how to use, and it was so easy. He knew what tempo he wanted them at. He knew, how many repeats. He knew what the intro and the outro should be like. He knew everything. They didn't even have to talk about it. He said, I walked in, I set up my iPad, and I was done. And so communication between musicians, and also the ease of using it, the price can't be beat. Once you pay that initial price, they never ask you for money again. So all of this stuff, the forums and everything, it's all free. There's lots of sharing. Other people are making stuff all the time, sharing stuff. So it is quirky. They are making it better. It has improved over the years that I've used it. But you just, if you're going to start making your own tunes, you have to know that if it says that it won't play or it does something wrong, you've probably stuck a bar line somewhere. That's my experience. What do you think, Cynthia?
Well, I mean, the basic functionality of it is very user friendly. I mean, if you have a song that you want to practice, you can practice. You can put just the bass and the drums so that you can, really get the vocal thing going. You can do the piano and know, other rhythm, and then basically the musicians, the rhythm section kind of knows what you're talking about when you go in and say, I want this song in this key. You can print it out and just give it to them, but they usually have their, devices with them. And yeah, I mean,
I want to demonstrate something Cynthia just said. If you're a bass player, start practicing by turning off the bass.
Right? Or leave it on and play along.
Or play along with it if you want to learn this. If you're a drummer, or when I practice with guitar, I leave that off, right? Or I make it really quiet.
And then if you're a vocalist and you don't want any of the melody because you're practicing that, just do the bass line, you know.
Oh, if you don't even want the piano chords?
Well, the piano's not playing the melody, right?
Yeah, there's no melody in here.
Not melody, but the piano.
Yeah.
You know, and you, because it follows when you're playing the piano, you know, or when you listen to the piano, you pretty much you can hear the melody, but it's really hard to hear the melody when you're just listening to the bass, but it's good practice.
And it looked like, Ken, you wanted to say something, or did you just leave? Okay.
He just left.
Just waving. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you can, it's really easy to customize it. It's really easy to use it. Everybody uses it. And so everybody knows how to use it, which is also useful, especially if you're working with other musicians, just being able to share charts and stuff.
When you talked about somebody playing a gig with Scotty and he gave them his playlist, had he put in intros and tags or codas to a bunch of songs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he took some time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's got his whole, everything in there. But it saves him so much time because now when he works with new band members, he just gives them his playlist. Says, here's how I do my tunes, you know, and he doesn't have to say, okay, this one, I'm going to transpose it to B flat. And I like to do last four. And then, you know, he puts it all in there. So it's really useful that way.
I guess there's no version of iRealPro for vocalists with lyrics.
No,
well, it doesn't. We don't need the lyrics. I mean, we can get the lyrics in other ways. What the value for the vocalist is practicing to. I mean, it's not the same as practicing to a live trio, but being able to practice to something that approximates that is very helpful because you can hear the chord progression. It's being able to hear the chord progression and being able to practice how you're going to vary certain things and phrasing and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not going to have any of the copyrightable stuff in it. They're very clear. If you put anything copyrighted in there, they will not let you put it on the forums. So the chords is, you know, you can call it, you can put they want you to put the composer on there, but if you put took the chords to any jazz tune and renamed it and put yourself as the composer, there's nothing anybody can do because chords are not copyrightable, but the lyrics and the melody are, so they're never going to be in there.
Yeah, it's super valuable for vocalists, I think. Yeah. And
I find it very valuable because one of the things that's hard as a vocalist when you walk in front of a band that you don't know is you don't know what it's going to sound like. I can get really thrown by the style or something. If I have really, really slammed home the last four or whatever intro I have, when I walk up on stage, I'm hearing that in my head, and it really helps me come in. It really helps you work on places where you know, a lot of beginning vocalists don't even notice when they add beats. And a lot of beginning instrumentalists don't actually notice when they add beats. But iRealPro notices because, you know, iRealPro has no mercy. It just keeps going. So, and I would say, you know, I also, for when I'm making, you know, when I'm making an actual score, I use MuseScore. And MuseScore is not quirky, but it takes 10 times as long to input a tune into it. It really does, because it has so much more stuff. You can do anything in there. And when you can do anything, that means that the user interface is going to be that much more complicated. So iRealPro is quirky and weird, but once you learn it, it's just there. It's really easy to use and share. And the fact that everyone uses it and the fact that they'll never charge you money again is really quite wonderful.
Suki, you had mentioned a Facebook page, and I think there was a question about which one you were talking about.
Okay. The Jazz Society has a Facebook page where we post news and stuff, and we have a Facebook group, which I would highly recommend everyone take part in, because lots of good conversations happen there. So if you just search for Jazz Society of Santa Cruz County, you'll find our page and our group. And you can follow our page and join our group. And it's a nice supportive group of people there. And we also mentioned, like, say, for example, this month we don't have our 4th Sunday jam because it's right after Thanksgiving. I hopefully will remember to put a note up there saying no jam today, so if you're a Facebook user. We also have an Instagram account. We don't really, we post stuff there, but we're not exactly active. If anyone would like to be our Instagram person, we're looking. I see you're all jumping with joy. Yes, I always wanted to be the Jazz Society's face on Instagram. Any other questions about iRealPro? Yeah.
Is there ever going to be notation?
No, not in iRealPro.
I've been using BandTheBox for 100 years.
Yeah.
And I can put a song in 5 minutes and print it out and hear it and everything.
Yeah.
But it's not as good of a playback. It's more of a notation for me.
Yeah.
But the iRealBook is a much better playback. So I'm on this one and I'm on my other iPad, and I can't seem to log in, and I can't remember my password, and there's no find password thing for it.
I believe there is on the forum. Let me look.
Cruz might need to download it.
Be great.
Yes. So if you go to the forum, I'll put the link in the chat. If you go to the forum on your browser, oops, sorry, I just sent that to a single person rather than everyone. There we go.
Bye, Marcia.
iRealB.com/forums. Click login, and when you click login, there's a link that says I lost my password.
Okay.
So
I've never been on a site where it doesn't say, forgot your password. I've got a book this thick. Where's my camera? Full of passwords, and it says iRealPro, but there's nothing written under it.
Oh.
I think
Steve, you got to use LastPass. LastPass. Actually, you use all Mac products, right?
Don't use no, just
okay.
on the.
Then you need to use LastPass. LastPass works on everything. It's fabulous. It just transfers all your stuff everywhere. You need LastPass. I've told you, I have stood in your garage and looked at you with your notebook and said, Steve, you got to get LastPass. So, next time I'm in your garage, ask me and I'll install it for you.
So I've got a 1/2-inch thick tablet full of passwords.
So I have to go, but I just wanted to thank you. This was so awesome.
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Just really good.
I'm gonna stop the recording and say thank you for anyone who's watching the recording. Thank you for coming. And if you have questions we didn't answer, let us know.
One more thing. What's the latest version, everybody's? Because mine says 2022 on it.
Where do you even see that?
I don't see that.
It's under the little tool thing.
About? Is there an about?
Yeah, there isn't. In the under the gear.
Under the gear, scroll down.
Says
version, yeah. Mine says version 2023.7.1. I don't know.
I think when we did when we downloaded this thing, that might have changed. But it's always updating on my iPhone, so maybe.
Yeah, mine. It's probably. I would suggest you you uninstall and reinstall it because it must have just forgotten itself. And I don't know if Kitty is still here. Kitty is still here. Kitty found the practice exercises under playlists exercises, I guess.
Oh.
So I'll go to find them. I don't know what happened to them on my computer. It's so weird. But
so if I uninstall it, do I have to pay for the thing again or just reinstall it? Because I've already paid for it.
That's no. If you uninstall, so you're using an iPhone or an Android?
iPad.
Okay. In the Apple App Store, if you go to the App Store, it should say that you own it. So It doesn't matter. Once you buy an app, you can put it, like if you had 10 iPads, you'd be able to put it on the other 9 for free. Right. It works over all your, so if you buy a new iPad, you don't have to buy all your apps again. So you should be able to just to uninstall it on your iPad and then reinstall it because you already own it.
Okay. Yeah, I put them both. I put my old one and new one together, and they just went.
All right. So I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you, those of you who are watching the recording.